Hello and welcome to UFC Breakdown. For the very first time, the Octagon is making its way over to Croatia for UFC Fight Night Zagreb. In the main event, a potential title shot is on the line as the red-hot Big Ben Rothwell takes on the former heavyweight champion, Junior Cigano dos Santos. Now, we're going to be previewing that headliner from every perceivable angle, plus a whole lot more. Here's what's coming up on today's show. Ben Rothwell tells us why he thinks he is the most dangerous man in the division. And we head to Junior dos Santos' new home at American Top Team. From the stats to the styles, we cover every aspect of this intriguing main event. Dan Hardy demonstrates the techniques that could provide the keys to victory. And we'll be joined by Fighters Only editor Nick Peet and combat sports legend and top UFC heavyweight contender Alistair Overeem to get their views on UFC Zagreb and a whole lot more. So as usual here at UFC Breakdown, I'd like to invite in our resident expert analyst, Dan Hardy. Dan, great to be back in the studio here
Always,
at
mate.
Breakdown. And we've got a big one.
Yes.
First time the UFC is going over to Croatia. Two big boys.
Yep.
And at the end of this, for one of those, it's potentially a heavyweight title shot.
Yeah, it's an important fight for both guys, though. I mean, obviously, Junior dos Santos was on a 10-fight win streak until he got that rematch with Kane and obviously lost the belt, and he's been up and down since then, whereas Ben Rothwell's been looking amazing. I mean, 4-fight win streak, a submission over Josh Barnett, and he knows a win over Junior dos Santos puts him right in line for that title shot, whereas for JDS, he just needs to start putting a win streak together. OK, well, let's start looking into this a little bit further. Let's start with the tail of the tape. Heavyweight division is full of very mixed body types, but what can we make from this? Well, both guys are pretty much the same size. I mean, the height's the same, you know, there's 1 inch difference in reach. But Ben Rothwell does stand very tall. He stands quite stiff on his back leg and he tends to tower over his opponents, whereas Cigano is much more of a low kind of side-on boxing stance. So it may appear as if Ben Rothwell's the bigger man, even though there's really not a great deal in it. But the one thing that I will point out is the experience, more than double the fight experience of JDS. So that's got to play a factor into this fight. OK, so Ben Rothwell is headlining his first UFC event. If he wins, he goes 5 unbeaten, and that will be against the former heavyweight champion. He believes all of that combined will give him that title shot.
It was a no-brainer for me when I got the call and said, hey, you want to be a main event in Croatia? It's hard to say. Everybody says they're excited, but, you know, to really mean it in this sport, it's tough because look what we're doing. We're going to war. To say you're excited about it, and, well, I am. That's where I'm at in my career. Fear, it now works for me. The last 5 years has created this guy that alleviates that pressure. It's not there. My training's the same. I was already training for 5-round fights because I knew I was going to be in this situation that I'm in right now. I'm ready for a title fight already. I don't really worry about what they're doing. It's about what I'm going to do. My striking style will go against anyone's.
Ben Rothwell has done it!
The same as with my jiu-jitsu.
Ben Rothwell by submission! Wow!
You know, people are, you gonna see the go again? Or you gonna do this, you gonna do that? I don't know, because it always happens when it happens. It's not about what I take from them, it's what they give me. And if they give me their neck, they get go-go'd. They stick their chin out, they get knocked out. I think you look at our records between juniors and mine, this fight is going to get finished. I'm on the brink of a title shot, and going on performing the way I have been it's important, it's necessary. I don't want to just get a win. I want to give the Croatian fans a memory of a lifetime. I step into an arena and I hear some cheers. Now it's on. And the louder they get, the better I get. I'm going to put on the kind of performance that in itself is going to make the history books. I'm a man of my word.
Dan, some lovely quotes there from Big Ben. Good to see him training with his small team at Rothwell MMA, but in the past he's trained with Duke Rufus and also at Miletich Fighting System, which has given him a very good pedigree on which to build.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you look down his record, he's got so much experience, but the thing that stands out is how much has changed in those last 4 fights and the change in his mindset. You know, fear works for me now. There's something that's clicked in his mind that's given him the confidence in his ability that he's now carrying into these fights and just looking unstoppable. Yeah,
well, let's take a look at the stats. And that pedigree that I was alluding to has made him a very well-rounded fighter, and we can see that in the way that he finishes and goes about his business.
Yeah, and if you think, you know, he's had nearly, 45 fights, and you can see how nicely divided that is, especially when we compare it to JDS in a second. And you look, you know, 20 KOs, 13 submissions, so he's able to finish the fight wherever it goes. And 92% of wins by stoppage. So, I mean, this guy's going to... It is exciting. You know, and this is a 25-minute fight. That's a lot of time to work as well. And he's got power from start to finish.
25 minutes. I'm not quite sure that it's going to go 25 minutes, but we'll see. So looking at his last 5 fights, this is key here. The 3rd round of the VERA fight, we saw him embrace his funk.
Yes.
You know, that craziness that he has combined with his genius came together in that 3rd round, and we've seen the results since.
Yeah, and you could see Brandon Vera just kind of break because he didn't know what to expect, especially when his, you know, the unorthodox movement, the jumping around and stuff. And from that, you know, he carried that on through his next few fights. I mean, you know, the win over Overeem was very impressive to stop a striker at that kind of caliber. The Mitrione submission was impressive, but to submit Josh Barnett, you know, Barnett is so well respected across heavyweights for his submission skills. So for Rothwell to have finished him with a beautiful go-go choke, the go-go choke, the bear trap, what he calls it, you know? It's a really nice submission and very adaptable as well, because the same choke that he used against Mitrione, although it was the same choke, the positioning was very different, which I'll discuss a little later on.
OK, well, we'll come back to Big Ben shortly, but now we turn our attentions to Junior Dos Santos. We sent a crew out to Florida, where he's spending his 2nd camp with American Top Team.
I'm training here at the ATT in Florida and USA. I moved because I'm trying to get better, you know, to improve my skills, to improve as an athlete, to improve as a person. It's a big gym, you know, we have some good guys, good instructors. Michael Moore, man, he's a legend of the boxing, you know, so it's an honor to me to be training with him, you know, to be learning from him. He's correcting a lot of things on my boxing, you know. I'm working hard now because I love to do this thing, man, and I can't wait actually to be there inside the octagon again, competing and showing that I'm still Junior Dos Santos, I'm still one of the best in the world. He's a tough guy. He can take some punches, but let's see because I can punch pretty hard. He got pretty good wrestling skills, jiu-jitsu skills, but I'm not gonna think about that. I'm not gonna stay thinking like, he's good on that area. I'm not gonna go there. No, I'm not thinking that way anymore, you know. If he's good there, I'm gonna be better than him there. If he wants to fight on the ground, we're gonna fight on the ground. If you want to stand up and bang, let's do it, man. I'm ready for this. I believe so much in myself. I know I can be the champion again. I can be the #1 in the world again. And this fight now with Ben Rothwell, I'm gonna give my best, you know, and no matter how, I'm gonna get that victory.
So, Dan, it's obvious from that VT that Junior still has very strong ambitions to be the champion.
Yeah, and he's definitely got the potential as well. And to position himself at American Top Team, surrounded by those coaches, you know, guys like Conan Silveira, Mike Brown, and Michael Moore as well, who is, you know, a very well-respected boxing coach. It's a lot of new input into him, and he's at the right stage in his career to start changing a few things if he's going to have that another title run.
Someone like that to gain those small margins to get to that championship level again.
Exactly.
Let's take a look at the stats then. And for Junior Dos Santos, something's very, very clear.
Yeah.
He might be many things, but in the octagon, he is a striker.
He's a striker, definitely. And if we look at the career stats as well, he's effectively leading the heavyweight division in striking. I mean, 12 knockdowns landed at #1 in the heavyweight division, significant strikes as well, and takedown defence, I believe that's second only to Mark Hunt. So that it really paints a picture of somebody that just wants to keep the fight on the feet and knock people out. And as you can see, 82% striking as well. So he's very much a pure boxer in mixed martial arts. We do see him throw kicks. Obviously, Mark Hunt learned about his kicking ability in their fight. But ultimately, he wants to keep it on the feet and box with the guys, and he's confident in his hands and his takedown defense.
But he needs to be more consistent than this.
He does. I mean, you've got 2 losses there to the former champion, Cain Velasquez, after he beat him the first time. But look at the wins that he has as well. Mark Hunt and Stipe Miocic, just still 2 of the best heavyweights in the world.
For sure.
And that fight against Alistair Overeem was a frustrating one where he constantly was trying to look for him in the octagon, trying to find him.
Yeah.
And that's not going to be a problem with Ben Rothwell.
I think he said there were just some small strategic things that were amiss in the Overeem fight. So should see some improvements once again. Big Ben Rothwell and Junior Dos Santos are set to meet in a pivotal clash at UFC Fight Night Zagreb. Time now to take a closer look at their styles in a section we call Fight Focus. OK, Dan, I particularly like this section of Fight Focus when we have such exciting fighters to break down. Let's get into it then and take our first look at Ben Rothwell. He really likes to plant himself in the centre of the octagon and go to work from there.
He does. A lot of his game plans are based around controlling that centre so he can keep his opponents backed up against the fence and keep them under pressure. He's a high-pressure fighter. He likes to make the octagon very small and very claustrophobic. And this is partly because he's so confident in his chin. He's so confident in his ability to take a shot, but also land a shot at the same time. In this fight against Brendan Schaub, you can see he crowds him up against the fence, even to the point where he got hit with that spinning elbow and hurt. Brendan Schaub rushes in, but Rothwell, just that natural punching power that he has, rescued him in that situation, and he lands a beautiful left hook knockout, which, if you watch it here, he throws 2 sloppy ones. There's one, and there's another one. Then he winds up a little more and throws that third left hook that finishes the fight. But it was still not a full left hook. There was still no technique, no wind-up to it. So it shows how much power he can generate in such a short space.
And he was recovering as well.
Exactly, already hurt. And this is what I was talking about with the pressure. Look at this space that he's controlling behind him. So he wants to keep you up against the fence as much as possible, so you only have 2 options to move, and he can start setting you up, particularly for that big overhand right, which, as you can see here, Brendan Vera's walking onto that overhand right. And he starts to couple these 2 punches together really nicely. And when you've got a guy that starts to be quite unorthodox and quite aggressive in his movement, it makes people freeze up, even an experienced striker like Brandon Vera, who then start to come apart at the seams a little bit and expose themselves to one of these big, powerful shots that he can land. It's the right hand that often does the damage, though, for Rothwell. He likes to pitch it over the top with a nice, powerful overhand right, and when he starts to see people lower their level, he'll start to use that uppercut as well, as you can see there against Alistair Overeem. Rocks him for a second. Now, Overeem's aware of that uppercut, so he starts to pull his head away, and he gets caught with the overhand right. The 2 punches fit together really nicely, and what they also do is it opens up the opportunity to get that front headlock as well, because as soon as he starts to pitch that overhand right and people start to level change, he can get over the top of them. And because he stands quite tall when he's fighting, it's very easy for him to tower over his opponents and get that weight over to get the front headlock.
So I was reading about Junior Dos Santos, and one of his longtime coaches, Dorea, who has joined up with ATT for this one, has said the key for him is going to be his speed and his movement.
I couldn't agree more. They know what they're going to get from Ben Rothwell. He's going to put him under pressure straight away. He's not going to try and play the elusive counter-fighter game just because he doesn't have that available in his arsenal.
And he's got a great chin.
And he's got a great chin, so why would he? I mean, he's going to be able to push forward against Junior Dos Santos with confidence. But what Dos Santos does really well is maintains distance. I mean, look at this line to demonstrate. As soon as you see Gonzaga step forward, Junior Dos Santos gives a little bit of space. It's really nice. It's good spatial awareness. It's good awareness of the range of his opponents as well. So now he can start working these long-range shots, as you see there. He steps in with a right hand to the body, and then he's out before he takes any shots. But then when he starts to get going, when he starts to feel like he's in comfortable range, you'll start seeing these long-range, long-power striking combinations where he'll work to the body, he'll work to the head, and eventually he'll land something of power. This was beautiful because he threw that right hand, overextended because he missed, and waited for the punch to come back past his head to throw the left hook. Really good boxing awareness, and probably one of the purest boxers in mixed martial arts today. As you can see against Shane Carwin, this is another guy that can generate a lot of power. In about 6 inches, he can knock you out. Yeah. So Junior Dos Santos was playing the smart game plan of keeping at that distance, using those long-range strikes and then getting his head out of the way. Against Cain Velasquez, the first fight, the big overhand right got the job done again. And it's very much a Chuck Liddell kind of right hand. I'm going to talk about it later on in the fight, but look how he bowls it over the top. I mean, Ben Rothwell will throw it a lot straighter than that, which means that he doesn't have to wind up to generate that kind of power, whereas Sagano tends to really throw his whole body into the punch, and you can see it comes right from behind him over the top. Yeah. And to put Mark Hunt down is, you know, it's a very respectable... No, not at all. And This, to me, is what could potentially be the X factor in this fight, is the kicking game of Dos Santos. I mean, look at that. A beautiful spinning kick set up by a lead jab that actually went straight over the top of the head of Mark Hunt. And now, if you think Mark Hunt's not as tall as Ben Rothwell, I think it's about a 4 or 5 inch reach.
Yeah, so this is going to hit the chin.
Exactly. It sets him up perfectly to land a good, clean shot at the side of the head, especially if he starts to set it up with that jab to the body or the head, which will then bring Rothwell's guard to the centre and expose the side of his head.
Back to Ben Rothwell. He really got noticed as a submission fighter when he got the tap over Josh Barnett.
Yes.
No one's done that before.
Nobody's done that before. And Josh Barnett is so wily when it comes to the grappling game that he can spot things, you know, as you're setting them up. How he didn't spot this submission, I don't know, because it almost seemed like everybody else knew it was coming, especially Matt Mitrione, who had already felt it previously.
Yeah.
And you can see in the Gonzaga fight earlier on in his career, you know, he's got good awareness of takedown defence. He's got a good awareness of the clinch work. But he was constantly threatening with this. He constantly kept trying to peel his head up and set up that front headlock. Here on the takedown defence against Mitrione, immediately locks it up and drives Mitrione to the floor. And interestingly, in this one, if Mitrione was able to get his back to the floor, it would have undone the choke. It would have escaped it, become a north-south position. So as you can see, as Rothwell drives him in, he's actually dropped his body weight onto the far side to keep his shoulder off the mat. So it's effectively a neck crank from the side.
OK.
But here against Josh Barnett, you can see he gets it locked in, and as soon as Barnett tries to bail out and get to his back, Rothwell cranks him into the fence and then adjusts, so he's actually forcing his chin down to his hips. I mean, it's an awful position to be in. You're not going to get a tap out of Josh Barnett unless there's nothing at all he can do about it. And as you can see here, because the fence was there, he was crammed up against it. Yeah. Different to the Mitrione fight, where there's no fence, you can see how he's far more sprawled out in this one, using his body weight to compress the head, whereas this one was much more of a twist into the fence. A different type of choke, different type of neck crank, but using the same hand position, which just shows the variety of attack that he can use with this same position.
So, in order to evade all of this, you've got to be pretty cognizant in the grappling arts.
Yeah.
Junior Dos Santos is very good with grappling. We've seen, obviously, it's the striking that he favours, but he has shown that he's able to scramble out of these positions and get the fight back to the centre of the octagon.
And the reason that he is so effective with striking is because he can keep the fight on the feet for so long. I mean, you know, he had 3 amazing fights against Cain Velasquez, and Cain is one of the people that can put more pressure on you in the wrestling game than anybody else.
Sure.
And you could see here, immediately Cain Velasquez starts shooting for the takedown. I believe this was the second fight. And you can see his spatial awareness. He's good at circling off, landing clean shots as his opponent steps in, but he knows when to abandon the striking and focus on staying on his feet. He doesn't get caught up in a brawl. He doesn't expose himself too often. Good with head position, good at getting his hips away, good at creating space between him and his opponent. Just a very wily takedown defense game, really. You know, very reminiscent of Chuck Liddell. Similar to his overhand right, his takedown defense game is very similar as well. And then with the front headlock position here, which we've not seen him defend too much, does the perfect thing here. You can see he gets the grip on the forearm to alleviate some of the pressure, and then he's going to circle his head actually into the centre, which is going to escape this front headlock. Obviously, he can't turn the opposite way because that's going to tighten it. So he needs to circle his head, and you'll see him circle it towards the fence here.
Swings his head
and then straight back up. And he does it a second time here, and this is far deeper as well. You can see Cain Velasquez really leaning on this, really cranking it, much like Ben Rothwell will. And you can see the hand fight circles his head on the inside. He has the knowledge, he has the information to get out of that position. What he has to respect is how quickly Ben Rothwell can snap that guillotine on.
Time now to hand over to Dan Hardy as we go on the mat.
So both of these heavyweights employ a very similar technique, which is the overhand right. But even though it is the same punch, they throw it in very, very different ways. And first, I'm going to focus on Ben Rothwell. What you'll notice when you watch Ben Rothwell fight is that he stands quite tall, and this allows him to punch down with his right hand. Once he gets the respect of the right hand from his opponent, then he can start mixing up the right uppercut. Now, if you watch the Alistair Overeem fight, he actually does this in a reverse order. He notices that Alistair Overeem is lowering his level, so he catches him with the uppercut first. Then once he's got the respect for the uppercut, as Alistair Overeem's circling towards the right hand, he throws it over the top and catches him next to the temple. So the combination of these two punches and his opponent not knowing where the threat's coming from makes it very difficult to predict what he's going to do. I've got Paul here pretending to be JDS for the moment. As you can see, with the JDS stance, it's much more of a traditional side-on boxing stance, which actually plays into Rothwell's game quite a lot. So Rothwell's going to stand tall, he's going to stand quite wide, he's going to make himself look a lot bigger. And what this allows him to do is punch down with his right hand. It's quite a straight punch because, like I said, he doesn't need a lot of momentum to generate any force into this. And what's interesting about this punch is when it starts to land, even if it's landing on the glove, the opponent can feel the force in it, so they start to react. The other punch that he uses, which is one of his other finishing techniques, is the right uppercut. And with these two punches coupled together, he can counteract the reaction of his opponent and catch them as they move. So as the right hand starts to come, Paul's going to drop his shoulder, as most opponents would, to get out of the way of that right hand. As Ben Rothwell reads it and he does this, he's going to throw the uppercut. And as you saw in the Alistair Overeem fight, he rocked him with the uppercut first, then he set him up for the overhand right to finish. So they're working in tandem with each other very, very nicely. The difference with JDS's technique, when you watch the execution, you'll notice that he shifts his body weight into the punch much more than Ben Rothwell. A lot like Chuck Liddell, he'll step forward with his lead foot and then he'll wing the punch right over the top so it gathers momentum as it's flying through the air. It can catch somebody either at the top of the side of the head or on the temple and usually knocks them unconscious, if not knocks them to the floor so he can follow up and land some other clean shots. So with the Junior Dos Santos right hand, you'll notice a lot more movement in this. He uses momentum to gain power in this punch. Now, unlike Ben Rothwell, he doesn't have that one-punch knockout power necessarily. He needs to use good technique if he's going to knock somebody out with one of his punches. And the reason he uses the overhand right is because he can generate so much force. And the reason for this is because just before he throws it, he's going to step forward with his lead foot. So this puts a lot of his body weight over that, and he can throw his shoulder over it at the same time. So as he's stepping forward with his lead leg, he's going to drop this right hand and it's going to come all the way over the top. And he's aiming to hit knuckles down onto the temple of his opponent. And that can usually disorientate somebody, either knock them down to the floor or knock them unconscious straight away. His second option in this point is as he steps forward and throws his overhand right, as it connects, he's also got the option of the left hook to follow it, which you'll see in the Gilbert-Ivel fight, which can be just as devastating as the right hand. Although both of these fighters use very similar boxing techniques, each of these fighters has an X factor which could potentially win the day for them. The first one I want to focus on is Ben Rothwell and the infamous go-go choke, which we saw him use in his last two fights against Matt Mitrione and Josh Barnett.
Can he tap Josh Barnett with it? He did! And it's all over! Ben Rothwell by submission!
The go-go choke, or as he calls it, the bear trap. The first thing I'm going to do is grab the chin strap, which is going to go right here, and that allows me to control his head to my stomach. So now I've got control of wherever his head goes. The second thing is the other hand's going to come through and grab a hold of my own wrist. So now this is going to give me control, and I'm going to be able to pinch my my elbows together and take control of his upper body entirely. And if I want to get the finish from here, it's very simple. I just keep my elbows together, and as I lift up, there's the technique just there. You can get it from any angle, and there are two different ways that he uses this technique, and I'm going to show you both right now. In the first instance, you fought Matt Mitrione, and Matt Mitrione was out in the center of the octagon and he shot a takedown, and it was the whizzer to the front headlock which set this up. So let me demonstrate this for you now. So he gets the front headlock, he gets the grip, and then as soon as he starts to squeeze, Matt Mitrione starts to bail out, but he doesn't let him go to his back. He keeps this grip and he keeps him on his side, and then from here, all he's going to do is he's going to sprawl his weight back and squeeze. And I'm not going to lie, the benefit of the gut weighing down on his head does make this technique come on a lot quicker. The second incident in which he used this technique was his last fight against Josh Barnett. But the application was slightly different. He was backed up against the fence in this situation, and Josh was in on his leg on a single leg takedown. So in this situation, the head is here available for me to start working. All I need to do is stuff the head and wrap straight over the top and get the chin strap so I can control his head. From this situation, I can then sneak my other arm through and get my grip together. Now, as he started to squeeze this technique on, Josh Barnett realised what was happening. He started to hand fight immediately. And then his only option now is to try and get his back to the floor. But by this point, Ben Rothwell was already locked onto this technique and he was not going to let this go because he knows it works for him. So what he then did is he adjusted his weight and drove his head into his hips. So the grip's the same, the technique's the same, but the application is just slightly different. Although we know JDS predominantly as a boxer in mixed martial arts with good takedown defense, we have seen some of his kicking ability in his more recent fights, and none more devastating than the Mark Hunt fight with that spinning head kick knockout. That's what I want to focus on right now.
Junior Dos Santos by knockout!
The reason I think this is going to be so useful in this Ben Rothwell fight is because Rothwell takes a punch like nobody else in the UFC. So JDS could hit him with 100 punches and not finish the fight, but one well-placed kick could do the job quite easily. So when JDS is fighting, one thing that you'll notice him doing is he uses this long jab, particularly to the body. He used it to gauge distance, he used it to maintain distance between him and his opponent. But the reason that that's going to be useful in this fight is because every time he lands that jab to the body, Rothwell's going to register that, and he's going to start to adjust his guard. So when this jab starts to come, he's going to bring his elbows together, he's going to bring his hands together, and he's going to expose that side of his head. If you watch the Mark Hunt fight, you'll see what I'm talking about, because JDS will set that up with a long jab, as if that punch is coming, and Mark Hunt does not expect the head kick. So let me demonstrate this right now. He throws the jab, and then he comes over the top, and he's going to catch him right at the side of the head. And another good point about this as well is that Mark Hunt is obviously quite short in comparison to Ben Rothwell, and the kick caught him right at the top of the head, right on the bottom of his leg, the underside of his leg. Whereas with Ben Rothwell being 4 or 5 inches taller, the heel should land right on the chin, and that's lights out. So what we have there is a multitude of finishing techniques, 2 very talented fighters, and 1 explosive matchup.
It's time! Ben Rothwell! Junior Dos Santos!
Okay, it's now time for the face-off, and I'm joined by 2 very special guests. First up, Alistair Overeem, the former Dream, K1 and Strikeforce Heavyweight Champion. Thank you for joining us here in the studios.
Thanks for having me.
And good to have you back. Nick Peets, editor of Fighters Only magazine.
Thanks, John.
First question's got to be to you, Alistair. We're going to speak about your upcoming fight a little bit later, but there is no man more qualified to talk about Ben Rothwell and Junior Dos Santos than your good self. So let's talk about Junior then. How do you think that he fares in this matchup with Ben Rothwell?
It's going to be an interesting matchup. Rothwell actually was my last loss. Hard puncher. He's a big guy, strong dude. He's got his wrestling background. Lately, he seems to be good striking too. I mean, he's got good stand-up. He's switching his stances, orthodox to southpaw. And then you have Junior Dos Santos. He was my last fight. He's also an elite striker, former UFC heavyweight champion. Yeah. Very, very tough individual. He has the ability to absorb a lot of punches. Experience-wise, I think Junior has faced more tough opponents. He's weathered the storm several times. Form of the day is going to be a deciding factor. Who's had the best training camp sparring partners?
He's a bit of a fallen champion. We don't see him getting the attention that he perhaps deserves, and I think he's showing that in some of the interviews as well. He's really lusting after that championship belt. Conversely, Ben Rothwell is working the media very well, and he seems like everyone wants to get a story from him.
For me, it's all about timing. I think this fight happens a couple of years ago. It's Junior Dos Santos all day. But I think right now, they're both at completely different places in their careers. You know, Ben Rothwell, you know, Alistair said then, Junior's got all the experience at the high level. He's been a former champion. Yet Ben Rothwell's had twice as many fights. He's been in the game an awful long time. And it's about timing, as I say. Junior Dos Santos right now, for me, is damaged goods. You know, he struggled since Kane exposed him and knocked him out the way he did. He came back against Miocic and struggled through a points decision. Then he faced Alistair, you know, and that fight ended the way it did. And I think now psychologically he's not the same fighter he was when he was the champion. Conversely, Ben Rothwell, you know, current company aside, he's the scariest heavyweight in the world. You know, that guy right now is super confident, riding the crest of a wave. He's submitting the unsubmittable. He's knocking out people with granite chins. And for me, there's only one winner in this fight.
Alistair, I'm going to come back to you on a point that Nick just made about the mental side of the game. Who do you think's a little bit more settled mentally?
Well, I think Ben Rothwell has a mental advantage because he's coming off of wins, and he's just doing it very well. Like you were mentioning, he's winning his fights on KOs, TKOs, and submissions. But again, he's not weathered the storm as Junior has, and I think you know, after a loss, there's either going to happen two things: you're going to come back stronger, or you're going to fold. I think Junior has it in him to come back stronger.
Ben Rothwell has mentioned that he has the cheat code to beat other people, and he's here to destroy monsters, this sort of thing. What's your take on some of the stuff he's coming out to the media with?
It's incredible, and we love it. You know, we embrace it. We want more of it. You know, I was disappointed to hear that he had this whole wrestling entrance planned apparently last time with a mask and everything, and that didn't happen, unfortunately. But as fans, we love all that. We want to see it, you know. Yeah. But let's be fair. The go-go choke he pulled off, it's one thing choking out Matt Mitrione, but then to do it to Josh Barnett, you know, that's a whole different level. And I just think for me, he comes into this fight with so much more of a narrative behind him, so much more of a story, but just riding that crest of a wave.
Yeah, and Ben Rothwell's unpredictability. We've seen he's a well-rounded guy, but now he's just showing that he can finish a fight in so many different ranges. What's it like to face someone who offers those kind of offensive stuff?
Well, it's also easily somebody you would underestimate. You know, he seems like a big guy. He doesn't really seem that dangerous, but then before you know it, he definitely does have that punch power. And now he's added some submission wins to that with the wrestling that he has, the takedowns and the takedown defense. So he's definitely a force to be reckoned with.
Don't let Ben Rothwell's little bit of meat and gravy fool you either as well, because he's shown since he got beat by Cain Velasquez, he's gone away. His cardio is off the chart. For a heavyweight guy, he has got great cardio. He can do 5 rounds. So don't let that, you know, don't let that fool you, that little bit of belly he's got on him, because you know, the guy can go hard. His cardio is right there.
Very exciting times, very exciting fight. I've got to go down the line then. Please, can you reiterate who you think is going to win that fight?
I'm going to go for Junior. It's a careful prediction because form of the day is going to be a factor, and it's going to be a question: how does he come back from our last fight, the fight that he lost? What I'm missing a little bit on Junior is, it's going to be very curious to see what are his new surprises that he's been working on.
What do you think?
Yeah, the form guy, I've got to go with Rothwell. Whether he chokes out Junior, I think whether Junior gets hurt and lunges in and ends up getting choked out, similar to previous opponents, or whether he just catches him with that big overhand. I think I can only see one winner.
So to you then, Dan, what do you reckon?
Well, I'm going to sit on the fence, but I can see the ways that both guys win. I mean, obviously with Rothwell, he's got that intense pressure that he puts people under. Really, the result of the fight is dependent on how JDS deals with that pressure. Can he stay on his bike for 25 minutes and keep away from that big power? Can he keep his head out of the front headlock? They're the questions we've got to ask. So
the lineup is split with that one, and obviously a very competitive matchup, and one that I'm sure we're all looking forward to seeing very much. Dan and Nick, and we are talking about the main card for Fight Night Zagreb. So the co-main event then, and we have Derek Lewis, who's on a real tear against Gabriel Gonzaga. Coming to you first, Alistair. Gabriel Gonzaga, a real veteran of the game. How do you think he fares in this matchup?
I've not been impressed with his performances lately. I mean, he's losing his fights. I'm not really seeing any surprise. He's got the ground game for sure, but I'm not seeing the takedown either. And yeah, Derek is a strong guy. Developing slowly but sturdily. And I think once he is able to connect, it's going to be a short night.
Yeah, Nick, definitely Lewis is coming in with more momentum.
Yeah.
But Gonzaga's got a lot of experience. He's a wily old guy. He was doing really well against CRO COP until CRO COP just turned the fight around. So he is still dangerous.
Oh, yeah, very much so, yeah. As you say, tons of experience, fought everywhere, fought Randy for the title back in the day. But form is everything coming into this fight. You know, I know he's coming into the fight off a win, but prior to that, he was on 3 consecutive losses. To be honest, I think it's a reward for Derek, and he deserves it because he's, like Rothwell, he's on an absolute tear in the heavyweight division, obliterating everybody, and it's a fantastic opponent for him to then take his career to the next level.
How good is Derek Lewis, Dan?
I think he's very good. I think Gonzaga needs to approach this one in a very sensible manner because he doesn't want to get into a firefight with Derek Lewis. And from what I've seen, Lewis doesn't seem to have a great deal of drop-off in his power as the fight progresses. So Gonzaga's always got to be on his game, always got to be on point when they're on the feet. And really, if he's going to win this fight, he's got to at least wear him out in the first couple of rounds, the first round and a half, in order to even contest on the feet with him.
OK, so Nick, if Derek Lewis gets a victory over Gonzaga, where does that put him?
It puts him right up there, puts him right up surely towards the top 15, you know, puts him within touching distance of a fight against the guy that's, you know, potentially a gatekeeper to the top 10. And why not? You know, that'd be his 5th consecutive win, I think it would be. So, you know, the guy's on his way to the top. Gonzaga's the perfect test at the perfect time.
And what's your take on the heavyweight picture right now? We've got some brilliant fights lined up. There's a lot of jostling for position there to get that title shot. There
is, yeah, and it's great. It's great for the heavyweight division. It's exactly what it needs. I was lucky enough to speak to Mike Tyson just a few weeks ago. I was telling Alistair, and he was saying the heavyweight division needs a Conor McGregor. It needs a rising star. It needs someone to come through, grab it by the scruff of the neck and really take it to the next level. And right now, we've got everybody. There's so many people. There's Rothwell. Is JDS going to come back? Alistair's riding the crest of a wave now, coming in. Vadum's now fighting Miocic. And there's so much going on in the heavyweight division. It's good to see because for so long, when Cain Velasquez was the champion, he was out injured. The belt was on lockdown. Yeah. You know, this is the heavyweight championship of the world. Yeah. This is the marquee title in world sport. In any sport, you're the heavyweight champion of the world, you've got the golden ticket. Yeah. And the UFC owns that, but it's been redundant for so long. It's time for the resurgence. I think this year could be a big year.
Yeah, lots of heavyweights fighting in Zagreb. Actually, let's take a look at the main card now and discuss what is in store for us. Obviously headlined by Ben Rothwell versus Junior Dos Santos, the 4th heavyweight bout sees Marcin Tybura face off against Timothy Johnson. But Dan, the prelims have got a lot of interest as well.
Yeah, they have. Well, Rob Whiteford's been doing a lot of work at ATT. I'm always interested to see how that affects somebody's game. He's got a tough opponent against Lucas Martins. That's not going to be an easy fight at all. And then Nicholas Dalby had a great showing in Dublin. We all enjoyed that fight, including his opponent, Darren Till. But he's fighting Zach Cummins, and that could be a banana skin for anybody.
Yeah, great card with a real international flavour. We now turn our attentions forward to UFC Rotterdam and Alistair Overeem, who is headlining the very first fight card in the Netherlands. Obviously a Dutchman yourself, and that is now sold out as well, which is fantastic news. What does it mean to you to be that guy, the guy at the front of the poster for the first event over in Rotterdam?
Well, very proud to you know, we're bringing the UFC to Holland, the first ever UFC. I mean, I never thought it was possible because fighting in Holland is not that popular, but the UFC is able to turn it around, and I'm very proud to be a part of that.
And what makes this really cool as well, I think for the fans, maybe not so much for you, let's find out, but you're fighting a teammate. Andrei Arlovski, you guys have been around the game a long, long time, both European as well. How does that work?
Well, okay, so we're teammates. We've trained together a couple of times. I mean, it's not that we train together on a daily basis. For a while now, we've actually kept our distance from each other.
Did you kind of know that this might be happening?
Well, it would be silly to think it would not happen. I mean, he's top 5, top 10, I'm top 5. So you're both right up there. So it would be foolish to think that we would not fight. I think we both felt it coming.
Did you want this, though? Was this something that did you want to fight Andre, or is this something that's happened just by the fact that you guys are in that top ranking?
We're teammates. We're not friends. I would say if I know you, if I'm close to you, I think I have a little edge because I kind of know what you're going to do and I kind of make my battle plan. So, but that being said, for me, it's just sport. It's not personal.
Was it a hard decision going back to the same gym and knowing that he was going to be sharing that space with you?
Well, a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. The two main coaches of Greg Jackson and Mike Winkeljohn are going to be cornering Arlovski. So that was a little bit, strange, funny. But I have other good coaches that I work with at the same academy, at the same gym. So, yeah, we're just finding our way around it, and had a good conversation with Greg Jackson, and he said we're going to pick right back after this fight. And, yeah, they're my friends, too. And, again, let's just all look at it as a sportive thing. For me, there's no animosity towards Andre. I'm going to do the best I can to win. I expect him to come in his best shape, and may the best man win.
Nick, this is a heck of a matchup. Two guys facing one another from the same gym. Yeah. This is rare.
It's very rare. It's a little bit strange as well. And I think if it was any other camp in the world, you'd think there's going to be fireworks, it's going to end in tears, you know, something's going to go wrong. But the thing with Jackson Wink is they've done this before. They've been down this road before and it went wrong before. When John Jones was supposed to fight Rashad Evans, it completely fell apart. There was infighting in the gym, civil war broke out. They had to choose. Rashad ended up leaving and setting up a new gym elsewhere. John Jones stayed. It got really ugly. So the fact that it is this gym and it's happening again and it's Greg Jackson and Mike Winklejohn at the centre of it again, from day one they've said, right, Andre's been here longer, we're going to stick with Andre, but Alistair, you're still part of this team, as he's just pointed out then. So it's just an unusual circumstance, you know. Come fight, a couple of weeks before fight week in the centre of Albuquerque, you're going to have Alistair, say, training in the morning on the same mat that Andre's going to train on in the afternoon, and Mike Winklejohn and Greg Jackson going to kind of walk around and we're not looking at you, Alistair, we're not looking at your game plan.
That means they're doing something right, that they have so many top-level fighters training at the same facility.
Yeah, well, they were Fighters Only World MMA Awards Gym of the Year last year for a reason. It's packed full of killers, you know, as this fight proves. But more than anything, it kind of like this fight in Zagreb as well, two of the very best heavyweights on the planet going at it in Rotterdam, first time in Holland. It's going to be sensational.
Great stuff. Well, gentlemen, we're going to leave it there. All the very best to you in that upcoming fight for Rotterdam. For all of the details for Fight Night Zagreb, head on over to UFC.com. Also, why not tweet us at UFC Europe using the hashtag UFC Zagreb. So the next time you will see us is for UFC Breakdown Rotterdam. Until then, it's goodbye from us.